Hello, and welcome to our second installment of One on One with Broadway director, choreographer, and Tony nominee Larry Fuller.
Hello, Facebook musical theater fans. Well, I don't know if certainly some of you did not see the first installment last Tuesday, 2 days ago. But excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Anyway, I went from West Side Story into The Music Man. I was the first replacement in that cast, and because it had only been open a month or so, when, as I think I said yesterday, one of the dancers, Gary Mintier, who went on to be a TV producer, Vernon Shirley being one of his shows, he left, and so I got invited to a private audition. There were only 6 of us, and because I was still, well, by that time I was 20, but still looked like I could be a teenager, and I got hired. So I went into the show after I think I had maybe a week of rehearsal. Tommy Pankow was Anna White's assistant, and he taught me the show and put me in. In Trouble, the number, You Got Trouble, right here in River City, I was up on a post above the stage a bit, and so I decided I was going to be the boy who rebuckled his knickerbockers below the knee, and I played that little thing. I thought, well, at least it gives me a part to do, something to do. I enjoyed being in that show. I stayed in it for almost 2 years. I think it was 1 year and 9 months, because I decided that at that time that part of my strategy of moving to a very successful new show was to be able to stay in it for a long time and stay in New York and study singing and acting and so on. I didn't go to a lot of dance classes at that time in my life, although I did go. Matt Maddox was still teaching the Jack Cole technique, which I had yet to learn, and I went to him quite a bit. He was a very, very popular teacher there, until he went to France, just suddenly. And then I also studied with Peter Gennaro, who was teaching at that time. Totally different style. Peter Gennaro did what I suppose we used to refer to as jigging. He did a lot of fast footwork and sharp kicks and stuff, as you have seen Chita Rivera do, especially in America. Anyway, I was in it for 1 year and 9 months, and I guess about maybe less than a year, several months into the run, I was called to the stage manager's desk during half hour, and I thought, oh God, what's happening? I think they did warn me that a package had arrived for me. So I got there, and it was this great big dress box. And I thought, what the hell could this be? So I opened it, and there was a real Fox Chubby, a la Joan Crawford, and a picture hat in organdy, and a wand with a star on the end that lit up when you pushed the button. So, where was it from? It was from the boys in West Side Story. They had, after I had left the show and other people had left and many replacements had gone in, and they were about to close on Broadway, and it only ran about a year and a half originally, and go on tour. And the note inside the box said, of all of the various pieces of drag we have here in the dressing room now, we can't get them all in the trunk. So this coat and hat and wand wouldn't fit in, and we had a vote as to who it should go to. And I won. So they sent it over to the theater, the Majestic. I mean, I was hysterical. It was so funny. And of course, I paraded around the dressing rooms with my fox chubby. I don't remember whatever happened to that coat. It was a real fox chubby, and it was in good shape too. But it's somewhere else now. And I do remember too, at one point, well into my stay in the show, I came into the wings to watch something that Bob Preston was doing. Robert Preston, his professional name, but everybody called him Bob. And there was came up to look at the stage. I was not going on for anything. Nobody was there except this one rather tall man, dark-haired, beautiful suit, watching Bob Preston. And I thought, wait, I think that's Cary Grant. So I kind of sneaked around the side of him to get a look, and it was Cary Grant. And I was like, oh my God. And he looked over at me and kind of nodded and said hello, and then went back to watching Bob. And I said hi, and stayed there for a little while, and then I left. And much later I heard that the producers of the film, The Music Man, had originally wanted Cary Grant to do the Harold Hill role. And Cary Grant, after having seen Bob Preston, told producers they were insane if they didn't hire Bob Preston, because he's the one that should do it. And of course he did. And it rebirthed, so to speak, his film career. And some of you, I'm sure, remember him in Victor Victoria, besides The Music Man. Anyway, he was a terrific guy. He was just a lovely man. Another one that I used to watch all the time was when Barbara Cook would sing Goodnight My Someone, and the Barbershop Quartet was strolling around the stage singing Light a Rose, and they blended it together. It was just such a beautiful musical moment in the show. Then I was doing a freebie for Kevin Carlisle, who was an up-and-coming choreographer. Certainly has many credits now. It was a concert that we were going to do at the 92nd Street Y, because that was a kind of showcase for new choreographers that get directors and producers to come and see their work. And we were doing, I don't know what the number was, but it was in a studio rehearsal, and there was this one point where my partner, who wasn't that tall really, was laying flat on the floor, and he wanted the guys to pick up the girl's dead weight from the floor and put them on their knees, or their thighs. And I remember when I went to pick her up this one time, I heard something pop, and suddenly I couldn't bend forward. I mean, I know what it's like to be paralyzed, because my mind would say, bend forward with your body. Wouldn't go. I could bend sideways, I could bend backwards, but I could not make my body bend forward. So, of course, it scared the hell out of me, and I went to a doctor immediately, and I think it was probably, the doctor for the Broadway community. I'll think of it in a minute. Anyway, and I was told that I had badly bruised a vertebrae, but I hadn't broken anything, thank God. So I had to lay on the floor, the doctor said, on the floor, flat, the bare floor, with only a pillow. And I had to do that for 2 weeks. Well, he said, you can't get up except to go to the bathroom and eat. And I did it, absolutely, because I was scared to death that I would be in some way, physically impaired. So then I went back to the doctor in 2 weeks, and he said, well, you're absolutely amazing. You're healing, terrific, you're fine. He said, except that you can't lift for another 2 weeks. So when I went, I said, well, can I go back to the show? He said, yes, but you can't do any lifting. So when I went back, I did everything but Shipoopi. Couldn't do Shipoopi because there were lifts in it. And Tommy, the dance captain, had to go on for me because he was also the swing. He didn't like that at all. So he kept saying to me every day, aren't you better? Aren't you better? Can't you do? No, I have to say, I can't for 2 weeks, and that's it. So I didn't get fired or anything, and in 2 weeks I was back in the show, and I never had another problem, knock wood. And so I left the Music Man, as I said, about 1 year and 9 months after I'd gone into it, because there was a Fosse show starring Gwyn Verdon called Redhead that was still running on Broadway, but it was about to close and go on a limited 12-week tour. And the 12-week tour was 4 weeks in Chicago, 4 weeks in LA, and 4 weeks in San Francisco. And I wanted to do a Fosse show, and it was a big, big dance show. And I'd never been to California, so that was another reason I wanted to go. So I went to the audition for Redhead replacements because a lot of people were leaving the show before it closed on Broadway, and I got cast and and put in with the other new people. And so there I was dancing on Broadway in a Fosse show with Gwyn Verdon. I mean, wow. And I do remember that Gwyn was amazing in that she wasn't dance captain, of course, she was the star of the show. Dale, oh God, what was his last name? Gail something.
Candres?
He was dance captain. And anyway, Gwyn would give him notes from numbers for the dancers where she was dancing, of course, downstage of everybody all the time. And she could see what was going on behind her. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Maybe that was her training when she assisted Jack Cole for so long. Anyway, but she was nice. Gwyn was nice, but she worked so hard in the show. I mean, she was hardly ever off stage except to change clothes. So there wasn't a lot of kidding around in the wings. And luckily, she never gave me a note, which was nice. Dale Marito, that's the guy he was the dance captain. Anyway, there's so many things going around in my head now. We left town 4 weeks after I was in the show. It closed on Broadway. And flew to Chicago and did that 4 weeks. And then we took a train from Chicago all the way to Los Angeles. It might even have been the 20th century. I don't know, I don't remember, because at that time that wouldn't have meant anything to me really. But we each had our own compartment, and we certainly had a lot of fun. Sometimes it got boring because it was 3 days and 2 nights to get there. And we opened at the Shriner Auditorium in downtown LA because the Music Center wasn't built yet. And did quite well. And then we moved to Chicago to the Curran Theater, I think. That might be wrong, but we played there for 4 weeks as well. And after that 4 weeks, oh, I know what's going in my head. Gwen was never out, but the rumor had it that she had had a miscarriage during the tour somewhere. Also, that she and Bob Fosse got married secretly in Chicago. When that was the first stop out of town. Now, I cannot document that. It's just what I heard at the time. I mean, she was amazing what she had to do on that show. Just amazing that she never missed. A bit louder, I'm told. Okay, I'm speaking up more. All right, well, the show closed in San Francisco, and I came back to LA because I wanted to have a little bit of experience, a little bit of time in Los Angeles to see what it was like there. And also the film of West Side Story was about to cast. And so, of course, I got in on that. And the assistant to Jerry Robbins was still Howard Jeffries. And he was assisting on the movie. So I got a hold of Howard and gave him his notes back from that he had given me when I went to Germany to do West Side Story in Nuremberg. Anyway, never know where those notes ended up. They would be something to have, but Howard's gone now for a long, long time. Anyway, he asked me to assist him on dance auditions for the film. So he didn't have to dance. I did all the dancing, and I remember, and we were in a, stage 2 or whatever at Goldwyn Studios, and I must have done the big chorus at the end of Cool, starting with about 150 times. One day, thank God I was still young and strong and had plenty of endurance. And then I got an interview with the director, not Jerry, David, can't even think of the name of the other director who eventually took it over and Jerry got boosted. Anyway, I had an interview with him, and I did not get cast in anything. And I was then very disappointed. But I went to an audition for Jack Cole. And Jack Cole was
I'm going to move forward just a bit, Larry.
We're going to move the camera.
See if that helps with the vocals.
Okay. You want me to still talk
I
louder?
think that's probably good now.
Okay.
That better, people?
Hope so. By the way, if there are things you want to know about along the way, make a note, and then at the end when we'll have a Q&A, you'll know what you want to ask. Anyway, yes, I went to an audition for Jack Cole, and he was going to reproduce his act that he had done for so long since the end of World War II. And he was actually going to dance in it again. He was in his, I guess, early 50s at that point. So we had the dance audition, which was, Jack always gave a very basic audition, because he knew that if he gave you a combination from what you were going to be asked to do, he wouldn't do it the way he liked it, because he always taught all of his people to retaught to dance his way. And his way was phenomenal. So, I mean, I'd been in 3 Broadway shows by then, and so I thought I was a pretty good dancer. But he re-taught me how to dance, and I never danced better in my life. And of course, Gwen was his product, and so was Carol Haney, and so was Matt Maddox, and another 1 or 2 that I can't remember their name right now. George and Ethel Martin. And so I was thrilled when he said he would hire me. The basic audition was simply like glissade assemblées, 8 forward, 8 back, and then à la seconde, grand battement, coming forward and then going back, and a little jitterbug kind of combination, but simple, just a basic step. And he was very specific about how he wanted you to put the ball of your foot and then your heel down, and then everything was very specific. So that was his audition. He just judged you on the way you looked and if you had technique. And so he hired me. He hired me actually as one of his featured men dancers. There were a group of 4. He was one. George Martin was another. Bernal Deitch was the 3rd, and I was the 4th. And we were in rehearsals. Yes, when he said he would hire me, but I would have to work very, very hard. And I said, oh yes, Mr. Cole, I'll work so hard, I will. And I did too, I worked my butt off. But you didn't mind because you knew you were improving by doing it. I do remember one day in rehearsals, we were doing a combination from Kismet, so on. And it was a combination where you had to come forward, kind of like shuffling, keeping your feet on the floor and sliding them along the floor, doing opposite arms like this. And he stopped me and he said, "You look like Ann Miller trying to do a comeback in house shoes." Well, I started to laugh because I could see in my mind what he was seeing. I could see her in these pink marabou high heel mule things, trying to keep them on to do this step. That, when I laughed, he smiled and he knew that I got him. So we never had a bad time ever after that. I mean, yes, of course, a lot of corrections, but he was never mean to me, and he could be quite mean, like Jerry. And so off to Vegas we went and did 6 weeks at the Dunes, which doesn't even stand anymore. We were the only show on the Strip that had to do 3 shows a night, 7 nights a week. And we did the Kismet opening and Sing Sing Sing, his famous Sing Sing Sing, supposedly the first original jazz number, to Benny Goodman's original orchestration. And at the end we did Afro-Cuban, which came from his time with Catherine Dunham, who was a primitive teacher. I don't know if you've ever seen I can't think of his name, damn it. You see, I'm getting old and I have these brain farts. Anyway, Afro-Cuban, and I remember at the end of the Afro-Cuban number, which was the finale, that went on and on and on, we ended up doing a knee drop and then falling back on the floor. And I would look to see the curtain coming down so that I could stop posed and I could just collapse, and I couldn't breathe. It was like everything was a contraction in that number. And I would go out in the parking lot behind the hotel and just walk to try and get my breath back. And I do also remember that when we did our final rehearsals, we never actually did the whole of Sing Sing Sing, which was 7.5 minutes of gut-busting dancing. And so he, Mr. Cole, being in his early 50s, I mean, he was terrific if he did 32 bars, but this was a long, long number. And I also remember Ethel Martin warning me in rehearsals, you know, when you get out there on that stage with Jack, whatever he does, even if he knocks you down, just get up and keep dancing, because you never know what the hell he's going to do. So I'm glad she told me that, because there was this one section in Sing 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 fairly early in the number where we were all, the four of us, Jack and George and me and Bernal, we were coming downstage in this diamond shape, and I was to the back and to the side of Jack, and we were doing this hand thing coming downstage, and suddenly he turned and he came straight at me. And I was like, whatever you do, don't stop. So I just kept going, and I heard him say as he went by me, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. So the next chance I had to look where he was upstage center, standing with his arms folded, the back to the audience, and he was just swaying back and forth to the rhythm. And he stayed there for about maybe 3 minutes of the number or so. And then at some point he jumped back in and he finished the number with us. And that's the way it stayed. I also remember that poor Reiko Sato, who was an original La Babu in Kismet, knew all the East Indian style moves. And he, Jack, and she did a fairly long solo duet in the middle of the opening number, the Kismet medley. And they had never rehearsed it. She went on with him and stayed just upstage of him, and no matter what he did, she followed him because she knew all the steps so well. In what order, it didn't matter, I guess. So, I mean, I was astounded. She did this whole complicated East Indian thing, never missed a beat. One night, oh yes, Jack and his being mean. There was a girl in the group named Tara, beautiful young girl, but she came to rehearsals in flip-flops, and so I think she really didn't have much money, but Jack made her dance barefoot because he wouldn't let her, of course, wear the flip-flops in rehearsal. So we got to tech rehearsal at the Dunes, and in the Kismet medley, there was about an 8-foot high platform in the back with steps in the wings where the girls would come up the steps and meet in the middle on the platform. Well, they had these harem outfits on, and part of the outfit was a skirt almost to their ankle. And they also had a garland in their hands they had to have over their heads, so they couldn't hold their skirt when they were coming up the steps, at least when they got close to the audience. And we were doing the tech rehearsal, and the girls, it was their time to come on, and about 3 or 4 of them on either side got on, and then we heard, brum, 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 brum. Jack jumped up and he said, what happened, what happened? And somebody on top looked down into the wings and said, Tara fell down the steps. And Jack said, God pays back. Anyway, I think maybe with that story we'll end my jibber jabber and go into Q&A. Do any of you have any questions, I hope?
If you have questions, remember there's a little bit of a delay here, folks. So if you have any questions, just type them in now and I'll relay them to Larry and he can answer them.
Another thing I forgot to mention was that if you all out there in Facebook land would like to contribute something, we're going to give whatever is contributed to the Actors Fund. people now are desperately need their help because they've been out of work for so long and have no idea when they're going to work again. So Actors Fund is really in need of some financial help.
We'll set up a link for that too, so it can go on this post for later too. So you can always revisit this post, everyone, and find that link and click on that Actors Fund link and then make a donation there if you're so inclined.
Yes, in our name, so they know where it's coming from. Anybody?
You touched last week a little bit on your first show, West Side Story, on Broadway. Can you touch just a little bit on West Side Story, the movie?
Well, actually, I did get asked to do the film, but not in a role, not as one permanent member of the Jets. They asked me to be one of the extra dancers in the dance at the gym, and I was delighted to be able to say, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a soloist for Jack Cole." West Side. You wanted to know a little bit more?
The movie? Did you say? Did you have more involvement in the film? Was that?
Oh, the film.
Uh-huh.
I did not. No, I just helped Howard do auditions, and he sat there and let me work my butt off, and then they cast it, and most of the Jets actually were original, and if they weren't original, they had done it in a major company that Jerry knew them. So there weren't many people hired in California that had not been in it at some point to be part of the Jet group, and I wasn't a shark, so there was no way to do that.
Somebody asked, didn't you do a show called Keen with Jack Cole?
I did, Kean, Keen. It was Alfred Drake's final original role on Broadway. He was playing a very famous Shakespearean actor of the late 1700s into maybe early 1800s. Beautiful score, really good score. And I can't think of the name of the writers. They also wrote Kismet. Anyway, Jack Cole directed it and choreographed it. And so I was asked to do it, and we rehearsed in town, went out of town, tried out. When we opened in Boston, it was a huge hit. We got reviews like, this is the next My Fair Lady, it's this, it's that. I mean, it was rave reviews. And the show was too long. And so they had to start cutting. And Alfred Drake's manager agent, Robbie Lance, was the producer, or at least one of the main producers. And so what happened was they started cutting around Alfred Drake. And I think my little chorus boy thoughts at that time were that we got into New York and we were a flop. Everybody expected it to be a big success because of the Boston reviews. I think what happened was they cut around Alfred and didn't cut him much, and the show got all out of whack. The balance wasn't there anymore, and so we ran 8 weeks and closed. And I remember thinking when I was in the wings, was it closing night? And anyway, close to it, I was thinking, oh God, will I ever work again? Will I ever be backstage here as a cast member again? It was silly, young people. Anyway, anything else?
When you were in Vegas doing shows, you had said that you did three shows a week for 7 days a week. Was that under equity, or was it under a different kind of contract? Or?
It was supposed to be under AGVA, American Guild of Variety Artists. And of course you had to pay them your dues, but they didn't do very much for you. There was one thing I remember at that point. It was considered standard practice for the girls in the group in the show to go to the bar between shows and, you know, hawk drinks from very customers. And I remember Ethel Martin, who had been around the block more than 20 times by then, and she said, "What? I'm not doing that. What do you think I am? Some young chick that..." And so she didn't do it, so none of the other girls did either. And there was nothing they could do about it.
Somebody said Keene was Forrest and Wright.
Wright and Forrest, actually, it's the way they did their spelling, or their billing. Yes, it was. And nice guys. And they wrote a beautiful score. And it was, I think, the only original score that they wrote from scratch, because their forte, up till that point, as in Song of Norway and Kismet, was to take a classic composer's music and rearrange it and put lyrics to it. And I know those two shows, Song of Norway and Kismet, were theirs, and Song of Norway was Edvard Grieg, and Kismet was Borodin. Yeah. See, if I really dig, sometimes the old brain comes up with it. Okay. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Well, that's unfortunate. I would love to answer more.
Borodin.
Borodin, yeah.
Borodin?
Yeah, that's Randy.
Randy Joni's helping
Mr.
you there.
Joni's helping.
Borodin.
Love it.
Okay.
All right, well, we're going to be back then for our third installment, which will be next Tuesday. 2 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. You can always see this afterwards, and please share. Again, we'll add the bio and add the links to YouTube, where you can watch some of Larry's work. And we'll be back on Tuesday to pick up where we left off and talk about other shows and other experiences. And please tell your friends. And again, if you want to make a contribution to the Actors Fund, you can do that. We'll put a link there too and tell you how to do it in Larry's name so that they know it's coming from him. With that, we will see you all next Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.